Hey class, welcome to week 3 of COMM 363 for the spring 2020 semester. Hopefully you have all received your textbook, which is listed and, which is shown right here as a photo, Advertising and Public Relations Research. If not, you don't have to worry too much just yet, but please keep in mind in the upcoming weeks, it is definitely something you're going to need. So for example, if we scroll down here, you're going to see that right now we are going to be reviewing part 2, which is chapters 5 through 8, and you're going to have your quiz, which is next week on February 6th, which is quiz 1, parts 1 and 2, which are chapters 1 through 8. Now keep in mind your quiz is going to be open all week, so on February 6th it will be open once the items are posted for class. So at about 2 o'clock p.m. Central Time, everything will be posted, including your quiz, and it will be open until February 12th at 11:55 p.m., which is Wednesday night, the night before week 5 starts. So you'll have approximately 1 week to complete the quiz. Please complete it once you have your textbook in hand, because there will be questions from the textbook, our lectures, and so on. But the majority of the questions will come from our lecture. Given that this is an online course, it is very important that you read the chapters. When we go over them in class online, we just kind of briefly go over the main points, because these are the main points that I'm going to be discussing, that I'm going to be asking in the quizzes as well. In addition, keep in mind that you had something from chapter 4 to understand, which is going to be on our first discussion form. Along with this week, you are also going to have something from chapter 8, which is also going to be in the first discussion form, which we will get to later in the lecture. Another thing I'd like to bring to your attention is that during week 5, you have your first discussion form, and your main post is due by Sunday, February 16th. You will have one main post to complete, and you will need to respond to 2 of your classmates. Your responses to your classmates will be due the night before week 6 starts, which will be February 19th, 11:55 p.m. So your main post answering one of the questions that I post will be due on Sunday, February 16th, and then your responses to your classmates will be due by Wednesday, February 19th. So keep in mind you will need your textbook for weeks 4 and 5 to complete your quiz. It is an open book quiz. It will be timed, but then in addition on February 13th, your discussion forum will begin. All right, so let's go ahead and go back to our class. So again, when you come to the class, you'll be taken here to the overview tab. Go ahead and click on the lessons tab, and now you'll see week 3 is posted here with all of our content. And if you scroll down, you'll see weeks 2 and 1 below. And once I post a week, they will stay up for the entire term. So all this information here will be up for the entire term, along with any attachments, any additional items that I post for the week. So for this week, we're going to review part 2, chapters 5 through 8. You're not going to have any activities or assignments to complete for this week, so keep that in mind. You don't really have to worry about it. You don't have to worry about completing anything for this week, except for understanding the chapters that we go over. So for this week, watch your week 3 video lecture, which will be posted here, and then of course read part 2, chapters 5 through 8. And then here we will have our syllabus. Now keep in mind, your questions will come from the textbook, and they will come from the items that we lecture on. So for example, if we open up part 2, I'll kind of give you an example. I only touch on a few items from each chapter, and these are the sections where I will be taking questions for your quizzes, so keep that in mind. So you can see that our lectures aren't going to be too detailed as if you are in class, Because this is an online class. It's almost like a flip blended course where it is your responsibility to make sure that you read the chapters inside and out and you understand everything completely. Then I will highlight some of the more important key concepts during our lecture, which I will also pull our quiz questions from. But remember, our quiz is going to be an open book, open notes. It will be timed, but again, you will be able to use any PowerPoint lectures along with the textbook as well. All right, so let's go ahead and begin with part 2, which talks about your secondary research in advertising and public relations, chapters 5 through 8. All right, so for chapter 5, this is kind of your introduction to secondary research and understanding what is the difference between secondary versus primary research. So primary research, this is the collection of data that does not already exist. So you are actually conducting new research when you are conducting any kind of primary research. So for example, this is used to find out something that cannot be found out without collecting new information. So for example, let's say I own an ice cream shop in Chicago, Illinois. And in this part of Chicago, there's never been an ice cream shop. So I need to figure out some information to understand my clients better, where I'm going to advertise, because ice cream is kind of a niche product. This isn't something where someone is going to really crave in the middle of, a cold January night. This is more something where this is going to have more of an interest during, the spring, summer, maybe even early fall times. So maybe you want to conduct some research during the winter time and then also during the summertime. And then you want to compare this data to see, what customers say about ice cream during these times. This probably isn't something that has already been conducted, so you may want to conduct it because it's specific to your own area in the Chicago, Illinois area. So you also have secondary research. This is the summary, collation, or even synthesis of existing data, and you actually analyze existing research. So this uses existing information to answer the question. So maybe let's say you own a hot dog stand in Chicago. This is something that you will probably find all across the city since hot dogs are a popular Chicago food. This is probably information that has, research that has already been conducted. So you can actually go to secondary research, find it. Sometimes it can be listed for free, but the majority of the time you might have to pay for it. And you could find information that might say, find out what customers are saying about hot dogs in Chicago area during the winter months. So you may want to pay for that research so you understand it. You could pay for it, get the research, and now you have it. So again, understanding the difference between secondary and primary research is extremely important. So what are the advantages and disadvantages of secondary research? So for example, how many 18 to 24-year-olds attend college? Your primary and your secondary is going to look like this. So for your primary research, you're going to have to conduct data. This could take weeks, months, maybe even years to complete to figure out how many 18 to 24-year-olds attend college, because you might have a spring semester, a fall semester, or it might be on a quarter system, or even a year-round school. So this might take a long time to complete. It's going to take time, cost quite a bit of money, and yield an answer that may not even be precise. So the information that you get from conducting this primary research, you may not even get an exact answer. It may be a little bit vague, where now you're thinking, I just spent all this time and money and I have a vague answer. Whereas with your secondary research, this is something that you can look up on the US consensus data, 10 minutes of total time, and it's no cost to you. This should say cost, no cost to you. So you can see the big differences of the advantages and disadvantages of primary and secondary research. So let's look at some advantages and disadvantages in detail. So advantages, it's inexpensive for secondary research. There's multiple studies most likely, so you can actually compare results of multiple studies. You also have large studies which are conducted by credible sources, and when you have large studies, you now have a larger population size. And in addition, you also have time to analyze. You're not really concerned with developing the study. You're only looking at results. So when you're looking at results, you have more time to look over it. Some disadvantages: it may not be specific to the topic. It might be difficult to get data on a specific topic. Like, for example, maybe there's a client who wants to compare their toothpaste to other toothpaste. You might not be able to get that exact specific data on different toothpastes. There's also limited knowledge of research methodology and collection. So who has studied for the research? How do you know who has studied? Is it listed? If not, it's going to be limited. There also could be conflicting viewpoints, can measure the same thing but come at different methods of times. Also, a lack of depth. The study may not actually go into much detail. For example, the study interviewed adults, but the client is asking detailed questions about men or women individually. So now, if you're looking at secondary research and you're getting this information on adults, but you need to compare the differentiation between males and females, you might not be able to do that. So now you might have to go back to conducting your own primary research. So chapter 6, you have your syndicated research. So you have a number of parties that fund the research, so each company gains a lot of information for a small price. This allows advertisers to look into data for multiple topics, audiences, and also companies. So for example, you might have 10 different companies who are looking to get information on a specific topic. Well, if these 10 companies come together, they can syndicate the research. They all pitch in a little bit to get the information for that actual research, and now it does not cost all to them. Excuse me. So it doesn't cost a big chunk to them, rather they're just paying a small portion. So you have your media exposure, such as how many people were exposed to a message. There's specific demographic groups, and you can look at this on Exhibit 6.1. And there's an example I'd like to pick up, to discuss, so you guys have a good idea with media exposure, especially now since we're going into a digital age of advertising and marketing. So you have your traditional research and now your traditional advertising and now your new methods of advertising, such as digital marketing. Thing is, with with traditional advertising and marketing, you might not get all the information that you might need. For example, in traditional advertising, you might want to run a commercial on the television. Well, how do you know a person saw that commercial? You may get a report that says, 1.2 million people watched our show. Doesn't necessarily mean 1.2 million people saw your advertisement. What if someone got up during the commercial break to go get food or to use a restroom, or maybe they DVR'd it and they could fast forward through commercials? Whereas with new marketing and advertising now, you can actually get an exact number of how many people looked at it. You also have media profiles, tell you who's reading, watching, or listening to specific media vehicle. For the purpose of this is to really understand if it has an appropriate audience for whatever communication strategy you are employing. So maybe you are looking for a communication strategy where you're really trying to target young adults. Well, maybe the purpose here can show what who your audience is, and if the audience is young adults, this will actually work out for you, such as what Exhibit 6.2 discusses. So you have your target audience media profile. So where does your audience go? Do they go to newspaper, television, social media? Take a look at Exhibit 6.3. So for example, if you look at Life Alert, for those of you who aren't familiar, it's a necklace you wear around your neck and it has a button on it. And you could press this button if you slip and fall, and it will call the ambulance. Usually, you're not going to have young people who are jumping to purchase this product. This is something that older, senior citizens are going to be looking to purchase. So, for example, you're probably not going to market Life Alert on Instagram, whereas you might want to market it as a commercial advertisement during the 12 to 2 o'clock p.m. hours, where older people are watching TV. So these are things you need to keep in mind, which goes into our next. Who is your next step? Who is your target? What do they do? And this is the most important aspect in advertising and marketing. For example, you're not going to market Life Alert on Instagram and spend hundreds of dollars there. You're going to want to run a commercial ad. And of course, excuse me, let me go back. You have your consumer trends, not only what consumers are thinking about today, but what are they going to be thinking about for the future. Start developing the appropriate messaging strategy of how you're trying to figure this out. Your chapter 7 discusses online resources. So now our digital world is expanding, and there's so much information at our fingertips. As it expands, it alters the form of existing media. So you have your traditional media that I talked a little bit about before in our earlier in this lecture, such as television, radio, newspaper, and it's becoming a multi-platform media. Websites are one of the most important assets to a company. They provide information, blog orders, etc. Websites are something that are going to build credibility for what it is that you're advertising or marketing. If you have a product and someone Googles it and no website comes up, they might think this might be a little bit shady of a product. Who are these people? What are they doing? There's no website with no information. And then understanding the difference between SEO versus SEM marketing. So, for example, you have search engine optimization and then search engine marketing. So I will show you the difference between the two. Let's take a look here. So you come to Google, and if you want to put in, let's say, Lakers tickets. I'm a big Lakers fan. So here you can see all these ads pop up. So these 4 ads are your search engine marketing, SEM. And people pay to have their information up here. So StubHub pays money, SeatGeek, TickPick, Vivid Seats. But the first thing that pops up that is not an ad, so you can see these 4 are ads, is Ticketmaster. This is Los Angeles Lakers tickets through Ticketmaster. So you could see that the search engine optimization is this here. And Ticketmaster has the #1 rank for Laker tickets when you search for it on Google. And then StubHub comes up next, NBA.com, SeatGeek, Vivid Seats, and so on. So you can see which company has the most optimization. Online versus offline measurement. So offline media has dedicated companies for syndicated research, whereas online media, it's a little fairly new, so you don't really have these designated companies. The media is still emerging. And there are 3 types of online measurement in the advertising space. So you have your media measurement, your campaign measurement, and then your website optimization as well. So your media measurement. These are telephone surveys, meter tracking technology, such as records websites that users visit. Software is voluntarily downloaded on their computer, and companies do not allow this, so they can't get data during work hours. This is why telephone surveys are used. Then you have your campaign measurement. This is instant feedback on what is and what is not working. You use tools to measure impressions, clicks, conversions. You can see which creative unit is performing the best. For example, if I have a Facebook campaign going on where I'm running 5 different advertisements at the same time, if I see that one of my advertisements is not working well, I can alter it. I can say, okay, this one advertisement, I'm not marketing to people under 30. And these other 4 advertisements market to people under 30. So maybe that's something I need to consider and understand, that my target audience needs to be under the age of 30. So these are things that you can look at to see which creative unit is performing the best, and then you can alter and modify the ones that are not. Website optimization. These are the organic search results, such as that first thing that came up with the Lakers tickets was Ticketmaster. These are site-side analytics. This becomes a crucial component to measuring success. And the website popularity is driven by 2 factors, the saturation and the popularity. So the saturation are the number of website pages that are indexed on the search engine. And then the popularity is how many times the website is linked to other websites. So I talked about the search engine marketing, the SEM. These are the pay-per-click advertisements. So going back to those 4 ads that were listed in the Google results, when someone clicks on that, that company pays. So the first one was StubHub. If I clicked on it, StubHub would probably pay 2 or 3 cents. Then you have your social media. You can gain information easily by seeing who likes traveling. You can create a poll. You can get instant information. So those are things you want to keep in mind. For chapter 8, so for our last chapter, this is other useful resources. So I want you to read each of the items below, understand each one of these inside and out, as your discussion form number 1 in week 5 will be about discussing them. Take notes on each one as you read over them so when week 5 comes, you are prepared to discuss. Industry organizations, industry periodicals, academic journals, and government sources. So for your week 1, and that is it for our lecture, for your week 1 discussion form, it is going to be on that information from our week 2 chapter 4 and then this week chapter 8. So your discussion form is going to have to do on those 2 chapters, chapter 4 and chapter 8. So keep that in mind. And as a reminder, I want to let you guys know I do have my cell phone number up here. If you have any questions whatsoever, please don't hesitate to text message me or even call me 7 days a week. It's completely fine. I want to make sure I'm here for you to help you guys if any questions come up. If it's something that might not be as crucial to respond back to you, you can always just shoot me an email and I'll get back to you within 24 hours. All right, guys, thank you so much. Enjoy the rest of your week. Also, enjoy your Super Bowl weekend. Please be safe, be responsible, and have fun, guys. I will talk to you guys all next week during week 4. Take care.